Flint Daniels and the Temple of the False Gods. Part 1.
So we land on this planet, and it's kind of a lush...
Jungle adjacent. It's very lush, but it's not a jungle.
There's signs of small towns of some kind of intelligent life that seems to be low tech.
There's like 3 humanoids in the field. And so Flint Daniels walks straight up to make first contact. He says, "Greetings from Earth. We come here in a spirit of friendship and concord." But first, let's go back to the beginning.
This campaign is using a custom role-playing system based on the Space Alert board game, which is a strange board game. And
You played Space Alert, Frank?
okay, everyone here has played Space Alert?
Yes.
Everyone who's listening, you've all played Space Alert? Okay, good.
You can pause the recording now, play Space Alert, and
Yes.
then continue afterwards.
Yeah.
Go watch a YouTube video. It'll be fun.
Get good at Space Alert and then come back.
We can also talk about it maybe when we get into
Yeah,
the
a
thing.
little bit about how it goes, because we actually played the game as part, the board game as part of the...
The key is that the setting is, or the key for this part is that the setting is inspired by the little bits of flavor text in the Space Alert handbook, which is, there isn't a lot, but there's enough that it's like, it's obviously set in the future. There's people going on these jump things. It seems like they don't really understand exactly how the jump things work, but they run them. The academy that you go to, the Galactic Military Academy, doesn't seem to have a great deal of care about your life and whether you live or die. That's like,
Yeah, they've gone for the cobbled together ultra cheap ships that just barely work. Staff them with like the barest minimum of the barest minimally trained people. Send them out, and then maybe 1% come back with some useful information.
Yeah, the manual opens with the guy giving the speech saying, "All right, we're gathered here to honor the brave and noble sacrifice of the deceased showed in." Wrong notes, wrong greeting. Welcome, cadets. We're here to honor your brave and noble sacrifice in joining the Galactic Space Academy.
I mean, at least it's nice to know that they give like eulogies and stuff, so they care that much.
Yeah, but I guess the first thing that happened is I sent a letter to each of the different characters saying that you've been selected for a special secret new mission at the Galactic Military Academy. You may have noticed that at the convocation, you are now the highest scoring person in your discipline, science or whatever. You may have recalled at the convocation, other cadets were selected for this secret mission, but they are no longer available. And so you are now being selected for this. I'm sure to go find this time, third time's the charm. So they're now the top of their class in their respective fields.
Remaining of their class.
And they're called to a briefing room. Different people are slightly different, but they've all got at least a few months experience actually flying regular missions. Not special missions, but just regular missions, which are basically like games of Space Alert. You go into space for 10 minutes, everyone attacks you for some reason, you survive for 10 minutes, and you warp jump back, and you've completed a scan of a sector.
Yeah.
I guess technically my character hasn't done that before, now that I think of it. But we'll get to that. Yes, we need to introduce the individual characters.
Yeah, so they all gather in
this
a
meeting
certain
room.
briefing room that there's just chairs against the wall, 5 chairs against the wall, and there are
Was there a pre-briefing or was there a post-briefing?
No, it was no pre-briefing.
they all showed up at this room, these chairs, and they all have they have new badges on it that say Lieutenant such and such, which is a promotion because now Lieutenant is an officer, and none of them are officers, so. They arrived. So I guess we can talk about the characters now because they talked to each other a little bit because they waited a while before.
Yeah, we sort of
anyone came
got
in.
to know each other a little, just sort of introductory. Unfortunately, I wrote down all the names, but I left that sheet of paper at work, so...
I know them, and I
okay,
also
you know
have
the
them
names.
if I
Good,
don't
good,
have
good.
them.
Because I'm terrible with names.
Why don't we just go in the order that you were sitting, just for...
Okay.
So first was Lieutenant Chumley. Lieutenant Evelyn Chumley, which is that he's a man.
Yeah.
And
Played by Robin.
Played by Robin.
Is Evelyn Chumley the second Marquise of...
Yeah, I
what's
guess I
the-
gotta look that up to know. the
Yeah,
exact
it's
details.
big, long, elaborate, noble title from, Britain.
Slayer
Britain
of
or
Stars.
something.
Betrayer.
Oh yeah, someone was asking. If
Butcher
it
of
was
Breckenridge.
the-
Yeah, you're the new serendipity.
Evelyn Horatio Hugh Chumley, Marquess of Chumley.
Marquess of Chumley.
That joke hasn't come up yet. I guess.
What joke?
I was surprised that no one has corrected Marquess yet.
It's Marquis.
Well,
I don't know.
I know Robin has a plan for the first time someone corrects
Well,
it to Marquis, so
my
I'm going to let her
character-
play it out.
Well,
My character is never going to correct that.
sorry,
because-
is it a
Someone's-
man or a woman?
It's a man.
Man.
Okay, then it would be Marquis, yeah.
I'm afraid you are incorrect, but I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I'm sure NPCs will correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because
Anyway.
Marquess would be the feminine.
Yeah, well, it didn't
I-
come up in the course of...
I'm afraid you're incorrect.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure we Googled this at one of these things once.
Well,
That'll be something for a future session we'll figure out.
all I can say is that. Actually, I can't even say that without giving a
don't,
spoiler
no,
away.
no spoiler, no spoiler.
Right.
Let's focus on what happened. So Chumley is just super old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Well, I drew no conclusions because I didn't notice anything was odd.
Because your character is.
We'll get to my character. I'm not the next one in the
Okay.
lineup of chairs. I think it was it Shannon was sitting next to me on that side? I can't remember. No, she was on the other end.
Maybe it doesn't matter.
Who was next?
And you should just pick someone
Yeah.
to go next.
Yeah.
Like your character, because we just
think-
segued into it.
Okay, we can follow the segue into my character. So yes, I am Lieutenant Richard Pill. I am science, as I declare loudly whenever anyone asks me, or doesn't ask me for that matter. So yeah, my character's backstory is a little bit different from, well, I mean everyone's backstory is different, but mine's different. So Richard Pill was a science officer on one of these sitting duck missions that jumps out, 10 minutes later jumps back. Did a few missions. And then one of these missions went out and didn't come back, as is usual. So probably he got a nice eulogy or something. And then about a month later, the ship warps back in terrible shape. It's a shambles. It's just barely holding together. And Pill is the only survivor on board. Only he's not really. He is a small octopus-like creature piloting a android replica of Lieutenant Pill, who is pretending to be Lieutenant Pill to infiltrate. And he is terrible at it. Absolutely terrible. It's completely obvious to everyone that just glances at him that, yeah, that guy's clearly an octopus piloting an android.
Can they see the octopus?
No, they can't. No,
It's clearly
physically
something
it's
wrong,
all right.
yeah.
It's just his
Like your
behavior.
tentacles are sticking out.
His behavior is just completely off, and but the thing is,
He walks around like this.
No,
Doesn't have a tongue.
He's just really bad at this infiltrator thing. And he's also really bad at recognizing that he's really bad at this infiltrator thing. So he thinks he's nailing it. He thinks he's got everyone fooled. So the higher ups at Space Command or whatever it's called, they decide that, okay, we totally have this guy pegged, but we want to find out more about him because we don't have any peaceful contact with any aliens out in the universe. It'd be nice to, get some more information. We could just, throw him in a lab, dissect him, all that kind of stuff. But he may not say anything. Let's observe. Let's let him carry out his mission, whatever it may be, and just watch him as he does it. And so that's his thing. They've let him continue to pretend to be Lieutenant Pill and pretend to be fooled by it, just to see what he's going to do.
Does Space Command alert anyone else? Or do they just leave it to them to understand?
Probably not.
Not initially.
I've got some
We'll
character.
get to that.
Which this is Lieutenant Chumley.
Okay. It's a very old-fashioned book.
Yes, he is dressed very old-fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really know why, but
There you got Pill there.
yeah.
Does he also have an old-fashioned voice?
Yes, he speaks with an English accent, but Robin doesn't want to do that, so she just says, imagine him speaking with an English accent. I don't know if it's old-fashioned, but
English accent is inherently old-fashioned.
It has two It's either old-fashioned sounding or it's ridiculous sounding.
He
Soccer hooligans do not sound old-fashioned.
he talks in a very kind of clipped sort of, I don't know what you call it, like high British accent
Yep.
kind of way.
The Lord's accent. High. I think it's high English. Richard Pill. Okay.
Okay. Next.
Let's do Flint Daniels.
Oh yeah. Okay. So then there's Flint Daniels.
Because I remember
Space
his name.
Ranger,
Yes.
Being played by Tim.
Which
Ha-ha!
he posted these on Slack. These pictures. Flint Daniels, anthropologist. Flint Daniels, diplomat. Flint Daniels, pilot.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed
Flint Daniels, scientist.
dinosaur wrestler.
The Space Rangers to reach the unreachable star. So he's a member of the Space Rangers, which were a group that were sent out early in space exploration, even before the Galactic Military Academy, and they sent them off in these early jump ships, and none of them came back. And he, I guess, never actually made it to the point of going on the ships before they were shut down. But he's a real believer in exploration, and that, you know, let's have good, peaceful relations with other species. We're gonna go into the world and make friends. And, you know, he's got square jaw, big biceps, or big, you know, he's got
Broad
the
shoulder.
broad shoulders.
He's the beef man pile
Yeah.
of the party.
No. Beef Manpile was like a dumpy biker. Beef Manpile was like a round. He was round. You know, that was not round around the waist, but round like you look at him like that. Anyway, no, he's not Beef Manpile.
Yeah, no. He's your Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers.
Yeah, he's Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers. And then there's what was her name? Bianca Roberts' character.
Sabine.
Sabine.
Angelet.
Sabine. Yeah. Yes.
She's kind of like a nerdy mechanic. I don't know as far as like.
I don't think we really heard much of her backstory.
Yeah, I know about it, but it's
Yeah.
not.
I know
public, so-
Robert has done a huge amount of work writing up a backstory for Sabine. And it just hasn't come out yet in play. But there's going to be a lot of detail about Sabine, I'm
He's a
sure.
nerdy mechanic.
She seems to be. I would say she seems suspicious of everyone and doesn't really like anyone.
If my character was aware of the existence of suspicion, he would probably think that everyone was a highly suspicious character. They always seem very suspicious whenever he's around. However, he doesn't recognize that in others, so...
She was annoyed that Lieutenant Chumley was allowed to bring his horse, but she had been told she wasn't allowed to bring her cat. So, yeah, I know Robert's done a lot with his character, but that's really all there is to say, that she's kind of a nerdy mechanic who doesn't seem to trust anyone.
Right.
Or doesn't really like the other party members, at least. Or is suspicious of them.
More will come out later with her character, but for now, Dr. Yuen?
Yeah, Dr. Yoon Mina.
Yoon.
Which is, Yoon is her family name. She's
Right.
Korean.
Yeah.
Is that
I
your
don't know
character?
This is Shannon's character.
I don't know much has come out about her really either.
She's also very suspicious, I have found.
I don't really know much about her either because Shannon didn't tell me her whole backstory, which is fine
Yeah.
because it's a rotating GM, so I don't even know.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff I know about Pill that he's actually an alien, but I haven't revealed to John. Anyway, I think that's everyone then. Yeah. Oh yeah. The horse. Apparently, we have a cryogenically preserved horse stashed away in the cargo hold somewhere.
Because Lieutenant Chumley needs to have his horse, and he needs to have his man, Dickon. Because, you know, people were like, you need... And he's like, yeah, I can't put these boots on myself. I can't put this on myself. Look how it's constructed. You can't put that on yourself. So he has his man, you know, stays on the ship or whatever, but he's there to make sure, to help him get dressed and that sort of thing.
So, the captain comes by and tells us the basics about what our missions are going to be about. This new class of ship actually can land on planets, and so it's going to be sent to places that have been scanned.
Yeah, you'll be the first humans to set foot in an alien world. And the new captain, or the captain, is pretty like, I don't know, he's kind of gruff and but gung ho.
Yeah, and
Bill Daniels and him kind of get along pretty well, but he's also
And Pill was like, yes, the first humans to set foot on an alien planet. Yes.
And
That is true.
but it becomes, they Lieutenant Chumley had a lot of questions for him. And the biggest thing that came out was he's the captain. He'll be briefing them on the meetings. He's not going. He's staying home.
Yeah.
They're going. Oh, we also forgot to mention that there was a brief visit from the commandant, who's the guy who gives the speeches in the Space Alert rule book, at least my version of it.
Yeah, and the picture
But he was just kind of distracted and was like, yeah, I'm sure it'll go fine this time. I mean, fine, it'll go fine. Walked out, but yeah, I used Eric Lassard, the commandant from Space Academy, the good commandant, Police Academy.
Yeah. The good guy commandant.
The good guy commandant from the later movies.
The befuddled old man who's perpetually, halfway into La La Land.
Yes, I couldn't think of anyone better to be the commandant picture than that guy. So. But anyway, back to the captain. I was trying to think the questions they asked him, because there was a bunch of questions, but a lot of it came from Chumley.
So, all of the questions were just basic setting stuff that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
So I don't think we really need to go into too much detail there.
Were there any pre-existing relationships between the characters?
Nope.
There could have been, but no one did, so.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Very fortunate for my character. So then the captain tells us all that, okay, we're going to need you to sign some waivers. I mean, some papers. Over in the next room, we've got all the papers and like a lawyer or whatever. So we'll need you to go over them one by one. Lieutenant Pill, could you start, please? And so they send Pill off into the next room. Where somehow over the course of all this I find a plasma grenade. We'll get back to that. It doesn't matter. So then, as soon as Pill's out of the room, Captain turns to the rest of the crew and says, "Okay, everyone, you may have noticed some oddness about Lieutenant Pill there. He's an alien." And he basically tells them, what's up with Pill. I can't remember their reaction. I mean,
they were generally like, I don't know, Flint I know was probably okay with it, but of course Sabine was already suspicious, so that didn't help. Lieutenant Chumley was like, what on earth are you doing? Like what? Especially because he's a security officer, so he's supposed to be in charge. How can I be in charge of the security of the team when you're putting an alien on the team, who we know is a spy? But they basically said, look, we want to just play along, just play along. Forget that he's an alien, except for just don't tell him anything, sensitive. But other than that, just try to get to know him and act natural around him. But you got to know that he's a spy, just so you don't say the wrong thing or whatever, right?
Yeah. And so once the party is informed of that, they call Lieutenant Pill back in and take the plasma grenade away from him.
Yeah, I don't know if that was even in character. It was just Brian was like goofing around while he was doing that in the kitchen, and he comes back in carrying the Parmesan shaker, and he's like, I believe I've signed these papers or something. I was like, that's a plasma grenade.
Yeah. The DM said it, so it's real.
Because I don't know why. Well, actually, I do exactly know why, but we actually role-played this physically. Like, I had them sit in chairs and I came in.
Right.
The primary reason I did that was just so that I could convey the captain's character, because he came in and, grabbed each one by the shoulder and gave him a hearty handshake.
Right.
And I really wanted to do that physically to convey that sense about him.
Pill had no idea what was going on with this. He's a little nervous.
He's like he's like a gregarious physical contact guy. So I felt like I needed to actually play that out. Yeah, Pill comes back in, and the captain's like, actually, turns out that was I don't know why we bothered to doing the paperwork separately. Actually, we can just bring it all in now. There was some consternation about signing the waivers, but I think especially because the captain wasn't going or something like that. I don't remember, but ultimately, and Chumley kept asking what happened to the previous crew. Because he's a security officer, he's supposed to be able to know whatever, and he kept trying to make that point, and they're like, well, things didn't quite go to plan, but we don't need to worry about that. They're, no longer available.
Right.
I think he did get them to admit by just constantly pushing that, the previous ships had I think they blew up on takeoff. I think he did admit that they blew up on takeoff. But they had fixed the problem now, and the problem was that they had tried to cram too much crew quarters and stuff onto the ship, and it was just too big. And so that problem is solved now because they don't have crew quarters, they don't have bunks. It's just the normal ship size, and they'll be sleeping on air mattresses on the floor. But don't worry, they're futuristic air mattresses, so it'll be fine. And they don't have room for a washroom, but it's okay because they've got a corporation incorporated portable washroom,
Right.
which is just like a briefcase, and you press a button and it turns into a porta potty sized thing. You go in there, it shrinks back up, and out comes a little baggie of clean water and a little pellet that you put in the disposal unit, like this hard, dry little pellet. And
He
it'll be
was
fine.
incredibly detailed about how this porta potty worked. I don't know why he's focusing on this so
I
much.
don't know why either, but
Maybe it's important for the plot later. We'll see.
I think it's just because I thought about it. Though a key thing for the horse being allowed on was whether that he could do his business outside because he wouldn't fit properly in the porta potty.
No, it's frozen solid, so it's
It just if he does thaw though, he can't. He has to go outside to poop.
which is difficult in space.
Yeah, he asked. Well, mostly though, if you'll be
Yeah.
on planet or just
Yeah.
warp jumping. But he asked. Does your horse do his business outside? It's like he's a horse. But I don't know. Maybe horses in the future just.
Does the Pope wear white?
But anyway, so yeah, it's not going to be the Ritz, is what they've learned. But that's fun because that's why the ship is not going to blow up this time. So after the briefing, or like on the general briefing, they go on to the mission briefing, which they take them to a much nicer briefing room with like nice monitors and stuff. And they say, all right, we're going to this planet. We've scanned one of our previous sitting duck class ships has scanned it, and we believe that there's evidence of intelligent life on this planet. So we'd like you to go there and make first contact. The planet is Basemu III, and we're going to. Yeah, no matter what happens, they always come up with something. The planet's called Basemu III. They're like, oh, Bessie Moo.
It's fine. It's fine.
And the way it works is, in Space Alert, you get a score, right? And so I carried that through to the whole system. Instead of experience, you get score, which is how much the Academy likes you. And so you actually do, actually score things for various things. One of the things is the mission objectives. So you complete mission objectives, you get 5 or 10 points or whatever.
Right.
So the mission objectives are make contact with alien life, make positive contact with local leaders. That's worth more points. And then there's one just worth a couple points, but it's deliver the Earth and Corporation Incorporated brochures to the local leadership.
So we did a little training mission just because we haven't played Space Alert in a while.
Yeah, I had this flashback sound when seeing the ship makes you think back to your first training mission. Because I didn't want their first mission to be a colossal failure because they would be if they hadn't played it.
Yeah.
Most of the players hadn't played, except for Robin. Probably no one had played Space Alert in 7 years.
Right.
And probably no one had ever won in Space Alert except for Robin and I. We play it with my sister and her husband.
Yeah.
And we've won many missions and moved on to the harder ones. But most of the people had only played it a couple times and they were all failures, right?
Right.
So I just did a training mission. And you know when in the Space Alert rules, there's the 3 training missions you go on? But everyone had played before, just not in a long time. So I just went straight to the 3rd training mission because then the advantage of doing the 3 is you can explain the rules in pieces, which is nice, but we didn't need that.
Long story short, we failed utterly. The ship was completely trashed, and everyone died. But it was a training mission, so whatever.
And it was a flashback.
Yeah,
so.
it was just to refamiliarize ourselves with the rules.
Remember that first day in the simulator?
Yeah, we went to try and rescue the Kobayashi Maru, and everything went wrong.
Yeah. But then, so we did the first real mission, and I decided ramp up the difficulty, or to have it ramp up. Yeah, to start low and ramp up over time. I decided, that went so badly. I'm just gonna. There's 5 players. I'm not gonna include unconfirmed reports. That's the 5-player, 4-player thing. With 5 players, you pay attention to them. With 4 players, you don't. So I was like, I don't play. We'll just as if it's 4. That'll kind of give you a break on the first mission. And also, my experience. So unconfirmed reports make the game 20% harder. But unless you're really experienced, adding another 5th player does not make you 20% better. You can do 20% more stuff, and I would say thinking about playing with with people that when we've got actually good at the game, a 5th player probably would be almost 20% better. But with inexperienced players, it's not. You
Yeah.
get you probably gain nothing because you have to coordinate more,
You
right?
stumble
Yeah.
more often.
And anyway, so I didn't have unconfirmed reports.
So we're using the CDs from.
I'm using an app
Mm.
that someone has made that generates new Space Alert tracks.
Okay.
But you can also play the official ones off the CDs because they have them just pre-programmed in.
Right.
And so that's why I use the training ones because the training ones have actually less threats.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So yeah, we did an actual game of Space Alert, and it went fantastic.
This was flying to Basemu.
This is flying to Basemu.
Right.
And,
Basemu, actually.
It went perfectly.
Mm.
Textbook. Everything went great.
They really learned. It was actually kind of impressive how they learned and corrected their mistakes. Because like in the first one, they basically didn't communicate at all, and as a result, it was a horrible failure. The second time, they're like, let's communicate, and then they just like did it flawlessly.
Mm-hmm. And also a few of the rules glitches that we had not been aware of or just had forgotten about. And cleared those up. Like the mouse wiggling at the particular times and all that kind of stuff.
It was kind of weird though, because while they were playing, I was like, I love Space Alert, so I'm going to make a campaign where everyone plays Space Alert and I have to watch. But I'll get to play it lots when I'm not jamming. But
So this was getting to the planet.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because usually as a GM, I would never be on baby duty because someone has to hold the baby, but I'm super busy. But it was weird. I was on baby duty the whole time they were playing Space Alert because they can't. Shannon can't hold the baby. Tim can't hold the baby.
And the baby was especially suicidal this session for some reason. Kept trying to bash its head through the table.
I should be wiggling the mouse is holding the baby.
But yeah, so it went flawlessly. They didn't even take any damage to the ship.
Wow.
Which meant that I didn't have to explain the rules for fixing damage on the planet. I was like, sorry, Robert, your character has nothing to do on the ship because everything went so flawlessly.
Well, that means that she can come along.
Wow.
So yeah, so we land on this planet, and it's kind of a lush, not a was it semi-jungle?
Yeah, I called it jungle adjacent. It's very
Jungle
lush, but it's not a jungle.
Yeah, so we get out of the ship, and yes, we got out of the ship. It's a nice, lush planet. There's signs of small towns of some kind of intelligent life that seems to be low tech, like medieval level technology. And so we got out of the ship. We did a little bit of arguing because it's us. I can't remember what we were arguing about.
Yeah, I don't know if there was even arguing as much as just like Flint Daniels, or they're like, what should we do? Should we do this? And Flint Daniels is like, I'm going forward, and he just walks out the airlock, and Chumley wants to like scout the area and like make sure that everything's fine and safe, and he's just like strides forward and walks up to the top of a hill.
Pill comes out there with his quadcorder and is doing the sensory thing. Yeah. It's better than yeah.
The copyright infringing term.
Yes, don't use that word or this video will be taken down from YouTube. Copyright strike. They're super, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't come up with a name for that thing replacement. And so I was like, it's like that, but I haven't thought of a name yet. And then Brian just started calling it a quadcorder.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we decide we should just head in the direction of the town and see what these people are like.
Very much. Did you mention there's like a big, looks like there's like a big walled city with...
Yeah, there's towns, and then further along there's a big walled city. And we're out in like the wilderness, so it's sort of a gradation. So we stop off at the first like wretched hovel that we come across. So it's still like a little farm out in the very outskirts of civilization. We figured, it's better to start with the isolated boonies and work our way in, as it were.
Right. That way they can freak out, send inaccurate news to the capital, and cause mass panic.
Yeah. No, they were pretty chill, actually.
Yeah, so they see a few humanoids shuffling in this field. It looks like a kind of a crappy field. Like this place is kind of jungle adjacent. The soil doesn't look very good. There's crappy crops with like these big blue pods on top. And there's like 3 humanoids in the field. And so Flint Daniels walks straight up to make first contact, and I don't remember just what he says, but something like, "Greetings from Earth. We come here in a spirit of friendship and concord." and
He rolls his
He did
diplomacy.
his really good on his check. So
How do you roll your checks in this game?
There's a
it's card based.
bunch of
So
cards,
it,
yeah.
all the only skills are just basically your division, but that decides whether you look at the trained or untrained side of the card. But more importantly is it's very rules light. So it's basically more about who is your character and where have they been. Now, and so everything that you can convince that this specific thing you should have an advantage, then you get an advantage, which is you draw an extra card and you pick the better one, right?
Right.
And so for a lot of checks, like anything that's trained or lower, if you're trained, you don't even have to make a check because I don't want to have a lot of checks, right? It's just say you're doing it and you're doing it. But making first contact with aliens is hard, and especially just so like brazenly doing it. So he convinced me that well, first off, he's really all about like this. This is like what he is, wants to do is make good contact. So that's an advantage. And then he also convinced me that he has a handsomeness that transcends all the humanoid races. Like all humanoid races find him handsome and attractive, and so it's
he's
like
Kirk essentially.
So it's like, yeah, they're that. He doesn't look like a horrifying monster. He looks like something nice, right? And so I gave him 2 advantages. He did really well. He pulled I don't need to go into all those details, but he pulled a really good card. So they just responded with, "Oh God, I'll get you, da."
So we got to learn the language.
But they're like, they're friendly. They start saying the word friend because he says it to them a lot, and then they gesture him back to their wretched village, where the village leader offers him a bowl of blue goo,
which we interpret as food, not face paint.
And they had determined that the blue pods would be edible to them, and they figured it was from that. I actually realized afterwards I should have actually had Shannon's character do that part because it's more of a medical judgment.
That's true. Shannon's character was...
That was a mistake on my part.
Dr. Yoon? Yeah. Dr. Yoon was too busy trying to trip Pill up in...
Actually, apparently, according to Robin, Shannon actually said, shouldn't I do that? But I didn't hear her.
Oh, okay.
So...
Yeah, throughout all this, Dr. Yoon keeps trying to find a question that will trip up Pill and get him to reveal that he's an alien in there. And yeah.
Well, she wanted to examine him.
And because I mentioned that, I went on this mission previously, but I struck my head and I got amnesia, but not to such a degree that it requires medical attention. I always, that's all
but
I
not to
want,
such
the
a degree,
constant, but not to such a degree that it requires medical attention. And so she was like, no, I think I should investigate anyway. And I was like, no, you don't need to, because it wasn't that bad.
You just need to do the pre-mission physical, that's all.
No, I was able to skip out on the pre-mission physical because I am science.
Yes, but she was
and she wanted a blood sample.
Yeah, she was pushing hard enough that Brian had to pull his ultimate card.
I have other cards. You know me. I always have a deck of cards ready to go. Yeah, I told her, no, you can't have a blood sample. I am a Jehovah's Witness. And I've also loudly declared on several occasions that I am from Canada. So, yeah, that should take care of any other suspicious oddness that I have about me. Yes.
As you apologize to furniture.
Dr. Yoon asked me, like, where I carry my toque. And I said, in a toque case. and she had no response to that. So I was like, yes, nailed it. I keep succeeding at all these difficult, deception checks.
Master spy.
Yeah. She has no response to that. It must have been correct.
So Flint Daniels eats the blue goo.
Yep.
And it's really gross, but he
chokes it down.
Because it's not meant for their metabolism. It's full of weird things that are probably vitamins to the aliens, but are just taste gross to us.
Yeah.
And they...
what do the aliens look like?
Oh, yeah, I should get you a picture of that.
They have very tall heads. And they always breathe when they talk.
Yeah, they always...
Yeah.
Flint Daniels spends the afternoon learning their language, and they invite them to like a celebration. He gives them
Exactly. That was exactly the description of how it was.
He gives them he gave them a little tool that's designed to impress primitive civilization.
A little Swiss Army knife.
And they asked him. They tried to ask him a question, and then eventually they demonstrated. They started like bowing down in a like question way, like, "Hey, are we supposed to worship you?" And he's like, "No. We are all sapient life forms are equal." Da da da. So one of some speaks like that, and told them not to worship them. But that was a thing.
We're getting pretty close to the end of the session at this point, so we'll wrap that up pretty soon. Yeah, on the character sheet, there's places where you can list advantages your character has and disadvantages. And one of my, most of it you're supposed to fill out as you play, sort of thing. But you start out with a few. And I mentioned one of my character's advantages is that he can hold his breath for 15 minutes for some reason.
For some reason, yeah.
So.
Does that come into play yet?
It hasn't come into play yet.
I don't like olives, and I'm not a fan of how
You can probably hold his breath longer than 15 minutes. I just didn't want to say he doesn't need to breathe, because that would be too obvious.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're like...
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like cat-nosed people, like lion-nosed people, but with big heads.
Yeah.
That's one advantage.
Aim here.
Of role playing over like Star Trek, like you actually can have aliens that don't look like humans because it's just a picture. So
yeah, aim here.
So they invite them to the oh, actually I should also say Flint Daniels asked them some questions. He learned like 20 words or whatever.
Yeah.
And he asked them about the city, the big city, because they're like right near the big walls of the city, and their response, because he only understands a few words, was city arugula bad.
So the city is named Arugula.
That's what everyone decided.
Yeah.
And city's bad somehow.
Yeah. So I was doing some more science in the background.
All right.
And I detected there were some well-hidden radio signals. I think it was radio signals, right?
Energy signatures.
Energy signatures. And I immediately was like, oh crap, there's a hidden civilization here. They're hiding behind this facade of primitiveness. And I'm really super concerned. And who was it that was asking Pill about why he was so freaked out by that? I don't know. Anyway, basically, I
Pill knows things.
Yeah. He basically said, there are two types of civilizations in the galaxy: destroyers and those who are destroyed. And these guys are hiding, so we don't know yet which of that this is, but they could potentially be destroyers. So
the energy signatures are inside the big walled city.
Yeah.
There are no energy signatures or anything anything but primitive.
Yeah, these guys seem to be on the level. They seem to actually be crappy primitives.
Yeah, and you had said earlier medieval level, but it's actually they're more like ancient level.
Oh,
the city is like
copper.
Yeah, it's
tools.
the copper age kind of thing.
Okay.
Like the stone walls, and inside the city are like temples that look like ziggurats.
Okay.
So it's like like Bronze Age.
Okay. I interpreted them a little bit more than that, but that's good.
And so they go to the party, and it's the Ewok party music. They're having their party, and Chumley is hanging on the edge of the party to make sure that it's safe. So he's the first one who notices when people start screaming in the distance, and it's just as twilight's coming on, a group of the same aliens comes mounted on these big
riding beast things,
and
they started
carrying these bows and arrows, but the bows look like technological, and they shoot this like
exploding arrows,
exploding beam that blows up one of the wretched hovels.
Yeah.
And people start screaming and they start attacking.
Arugula. Yeah.
And that's where we ended.
Very breathy screaming. Yeah. Yeah. They shot one of those glowing arrows into a hut that looked like it had been set up out of plywood just for this special effect to go off. Anyway, so that's where things stand.
Security officers report. We managed to defeat all of our enemies en route. It was a bit stressful, but then in the end it was fine. We got here, it looked fine. Doesn't look very technological. The guys just speak gobbledygook. I don't know. We need some kind of way to understand what other species are saying. That would be very useful. And now this guy is attacking these people, but we don't actually know. We're assuming because they gave us soup that they're the good guys and the other guys are bad, but we don't actually know that. We don't have any kind of context to what's going on. However, they're screaming, so I guess I'll shoot them.
Lieutenant Pill, personal log, encryption key 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I'm out in the field, doubly so, and we've stumbled immediately into another hidden civilization. Now, perhaps very quickly, the moment of truth. We will find out, are these the destroyers or will they be destroyed? It is risky out here, very risky. I'm very glad that these humans are taking the risk for me.
Personal log of Flint Daniels, Space Ranger. Today we made the first strides towards a glorious new future. While the natives of this land appear primitive, the quiet dignity of their lives has filled me with admiration. They have welcomed us with open arms, and I have great hopes as we stride towards a new horizon together. Though I sense something dark in the city looming above them, hidden technology has corrupted these peaceful innocents, and it may be down to us to discover the mystery of the hidden temples.
Medics log 1. We have safely made it to the planet, though it was very eventful getting here. We have met alien life forms, and they don't appear to be hostile, and that is good.
Engineering officer, personal log, I guess. Although whatever. What an interesting bunch they've grouped me with. I feel like we are just names drawn out of a hat or something. So there's me, a pretty good mechanic, if I do say so myself. There's this guy, this pill guy. I don't even know. There's Flint Daniels, Space Ranger. He seems all right, but he tries way too hard. The doctor seems all right. I like her. I think we'll get along okay. And then there's this Evelyn guy. Oh man, I don't know. He's a bit of an acquired taste. Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna get along here, but here we are on an alien planet with aliens that seem nice. At least the first ones we met were, until other ones came and attacked. But yeah, here we are. And somehow we miraculously landed the ship without any trouble. The flight went fine. I didn't have to fix anything. Not yet, anyway. I'm going to chalk it up to luck, considering our training was a disaster. But yeah, so far things aren't nearly as terrible as they could be. So let's keep going.